I'm Pam from City of Sanctuary. We're an organisation that says that we try to create a culture of welcome for people who come to the UK as an asylum seeker. We do that in all sorts of different ways, and this afternoon I'm going to talk about one of them. But before that, you get the commercial break. Anybody who hasn't had one of our leaflets, I'll leave some there, please feel free to take one. That tells you about all sorts of other things that we do. And anybody who would like to buy with money, £3.50 a pack of note cards and envelopes. I'll put some here too. I've only brought 2 packs. So, because I think most people know a bit about what we do, I thought I would just concentrate on this one aspect, the drop-in centre, which happens on a Thursday afternoon in St Martin's House. I think most of you have been there. But I thought it might be interesting just to go back a bit and think about why we set it up and how we set it up. Because the drop-in centre is pretty well established now, but in fact we're only just 18 months old. We opened in May 2011. Which one? And we're in St Martin's House, which is next door to the cathedral. This PowerPoint was put together to talk about the setting up of the drop-in centre for people who didn't know Leicester. But the drop-in centre happens in there. You go in through there and in that door. And these are just pictures of where it is to give people who don't know Leicester an idea that it might be quite a nice place to come to. You know, we can but pretend. We'd had, as some of you will know, a bit of a problem in the past. We'd wanted to set up a drop-in centre for some time, and we'd taken over some premises in the old Barclays Bank building, which is still empty, in Town Hall Square, and we were turned out of there after a couple of months, which was a great shame because it was a wonderful space. It was rather cold, it was freezing cold, but it had many other advantages, like it was big. But we found ourselves with the contents of a big space, lots of desks and chairs and sofas and things, and nowhere to put them. And St Martin's House came up with the offer of the old gymnasium. And this is what it looked like when we first saw it. It actually got worse than that before we took it over. As you can see, it was pretty scruffy. It was the dumping ground. It was where they put all the rubbish, all the broken furniture, the stuff nobody knew what to do with. And best of all, absolutely best of all, there was no electricity. And I mean no electricity. I don't mean there were lights but no power points. I mean there were no lights, there was nothing. But we were a bit desperate, so we moved in. This is us moving in. This is Bessie. One of the interesting things was getting large sofas down a tiny little flight of steps. What we actually had to do was throw them over the top and have somebody catch them at the bottom. Strangely enough, they all survived, more or less. And this is what it looked like at the end of day 1. And you can see St Martin's House, they'd done their best. They'd strung up some builder's lights on flexes that was run from a generator on the landing. Well, you call it a generator, you know, a box on the landing. Flexes everywhere, health and safety nightmare, but the health and safety inspectors didn't come, so it didn't matter too much. Piles of wood, old gym equipment still on the walls. That's what it looked like at the end of the first day. However, we cleaned, we tidied, we put down carpets, we did our best, and to begin with, it was a little bit worrying because there tended to be more volunteers there than there were asylum seekers. First week I think we had 5 people, and the second week we had 6, and we began to get rather worried, but we needn't have done, because fairly soon we started to do activities We've been given 5 old computers. We've now, I think, got 8 laptops. We taught people to use computers, and the computers are now in regular use every week. We had sewing machines. We had people using sewing machines. We had Lush, the cosmetics people, come in to do pampering sessions. About time they came in to do another one, actually. It's been some weeks. And then our clients decided to form a quilting group. And this is Mary, who ran the quilting group, and Afshan, one of the quilters, with one quilt, making it. And here's a group of people, many of whom you'll recognise, making another quilt. I say they are making 8 quilts. They have now made 8 quilts. 8 quilts have been put on display at St Martin's House, and behold and lo, they are now making a 9th quilt because there was somebody else in the group who felt they would like
Not sure
one.
about that, actually.
I think we are.
Well, we're going to have some further discussion.
Fair enough. Well, there may be a 9th quilt. So this actually has been a wonderful project because it came up with something very attractive and very tactile at the end. Something that we could put on display and say, look, this is what asylum seekers can make. And it's excited a huge amount of interest. So I don't know that we'll make any more quilts. I think Mary will commit suicide if we ask her to make any more quilts, but I'm sure we shall do something similar. We also now have musicians come in, not every week, but every few weeks, to play to us, usually folk songs. That seems to be the sort of people we can get. And here we have a group of musicians. We get people to join in, and with luck, we get people to dance. That also seems to be very popular. Particularly for new people. If you come first, the people who've been coming to the drop-in centre regularly and are part of the quilting group or know to use computers or whatever, they're happy. But we need to find ways of engaging new people as they arrive. So musical events are a good way of doing that. So what do we offer now? We're open 1 day a week, 1 to 4 p.m. We provide a free lunch for clients and volunteers. It's a simple lunch, but it's usually quite good. We pay people's bus fares. So long as they come with a valid bus ticket, we pay their bus fare. Because those of you who are asylum seekers or have been asylum seekers know, and many of the rest of you I'm sure know as well, that actually affording your bus fare to go to something, even something you really want to go to, is a near impossibility. So it's really important that we're able to do this. And we have grants. We apply for grants every year, and some of the money from the grants that support the drop-in centre go to pay people's bus fares. We also, I didn't actually expect this when we opened, but we also do, particularly Bessie and I, a lot of troubleshooting. People come to us wanting to know where they can access various services, wanting a letter in support of their claim, wanting if they've got a job or reference. We get all sorts of people who aren't asylum seekers as well. I spent a lot of time last week with a Lithuanian gentleman who didn't speak any English. Fortunately, quite a lot of our asylum seekers spoke Russian. So I got a group of asylum seekers up to translate for me. We discovered what he wanted, and we found somewhere to send him. So a place that deals with Eastern European migrants. So there's quite a lot of just helping people with things. As well as the Thursday activities, we run free English classes on Tuesdays, we run art classes on Mondays. Those have just come to an end, but I'm hoping we can run another course of them because they're very popular now. And the art classes are classes that are run with asylum seekers, but also with people from the host community. So it's an exercise in people getting to know each other. You come along because you want to learn art, not because you're an asylum seeker. It may be that the person sitting next to you is an asylum seeker, it might not be. It doesn't matter, you're both doing something you enjoy. And also through the drop-in centre we take people on outings from time to time. We're entirely volunteer run. We don't have any paid staff at all. There's a slight caveat to that because we're taking Colleen here on paid for by somebody else for 4 months, but essentially we don't have any paid staff. And at the drop-in centre we have around 15 people each week, volunteers. And it's a really good place for new volunteers to come and learn about City of Sanctuary. If you think you might like to work with City of Sanctuary, come down to the drop-in centre on a Thursday afternoon and meet some asylum seekers, meet the sort of people you'll be working with and for, and that's a really good introduction. And it's also a really good way of showcasing to other bodies, churches, other organisations that are interested, the sort of things we do, and it's a way, therefore, of them being able to offer us things. For example, there's a convent out at Rearsby, which is offering to host groups of asylum seekers going out to Rearsby. We shall do this after Easter when the weather gets a bit better, going for walks in the country, and they will provide lunches and teas and coffees and somewhere to sit afterwards. But they're quite happy to be used as a centre for that sort of thing. We've had other organisations come in and cater for us. The Mormons came in and catered for our last Christmas party. The Seroptimists did the year before. And we welcome anybody who wants to come and see what we do, whether they're an asylum seeker, a refugee, or anybody else. When we've been open about 6 months, we had a famous-ish visitor, the Deputy City Mayor. And poor man, we have hundreds of photographs of Rory with different groups of asylum seekers and refugees and volunteers. This is a selection. We have Christmas parties. This is our first Christmas party. People enjoying themselves. No alcohol, but it was a good meal. People had a lot of fun. And we taught these ladies to play bingo. I gather you don't play bingo in Africa. You will soon if any of you go home. It seems to be enormously popular. We also, in Refugee Week last year, had an open day at the drop-in centre. This is our banner. And we did various things. Sue did head massage. Ali did sketches of people, which came out something like that. He's brilliant, actually, at doing portraits. Mick told people where to go. Grace knitted. Grace comes in most weeks and knits clothes for children. I talk too much. So in the background did Bessie. And we got lots of people there. But actually, though that looks quite busy, these days we get something like that most weeks. We get about 40 to 50 people each week. So where are we 18 months, I suppose getting on for 2 years, 18 months down the line? Well, each week we're seeing between 40 and 50 people. It's a very poor week if we see fewer than 40. And they're not all the same people, different clientele most weeks. Lots of new people coming in. The room has improved out of all recognition. It's actually been decorated. The gym equipment's been removed, made a lot more space. We've got electricity. Actually power points as well as electric light. That was magic. It's amazing what doing without something for a bit makes you appreciate when you get it. We've also now got a mini kitchen so that we can actually wash up and make cups of tea and coffee on the spot. Before that we had to climb up 8 flights of steps, go through 2 doors that had to be opened with a key fob, struggle back. That was all right if you weren't carrying anything. It's not great when you've got a tray of cups of tea. So getting the kitchen has made a huge difference. And this year we're planning to extend our opening hours, which we are actually doing because we've got the art classes on Mondays. And we're also going to be having a conversation group, or have a conversation group indeed, on Mondays as well. It's not a cheap hobby. That's why I'd like to sell you some cards and have you put money in boxes. It currently costs, if we take into account everything we do, the classes, the outings, the bus fares, the lunches and so on, it currently costs about £12,000 a year. Even though we're not paying rent and we're not paying utility bills. That's it, folks, but watch this space. I don't know what 2013 will bring, but I'm sure it will be lots of things. Thank you. I don't know how I've done for time. Does anybody want to ask any questions? Yes?
I just wondered who owns St Martin's House. Is it?
Diocese of Leicester. It used to be Alderman Newton's school, and they bought it, I suppose because it was like next door to the cathedral, so it was a sensible space to have. Yes, I mean lots of organisations support us. We're not a Church of England organisation. I hasten to add, we're not attached to any faith group or non-faith group, but different groups support us in different ways. So St Martin's provides the house. We get support from the secular society in various ways. We get a lot of support from the Quakers. All sorts of groups help us out. The Islamic Society are very good in Ramadan. They give us goodie bags to give away. So it's just because we're in a church building, we're not a church organisation.
Thank you.
And part of our job is to encourage different religions to cooperate with each other. We are not a religious organisation, but we believe in operating with everybody.
Okay. Yes.
You said you reimburse bus tickets for those who have valid tickets.
Yes.
What if maybe for those who don't have money, but they struggle to come and maybe they walked from home?
Well,
what do you do?
People know that we reimburse bus tickets, and if that happens, usually the person will come and tell us about it. Usually their friend will say, you know, so-and-so's had to walk all the way, and we say, okay, we'll give you your money for this week, come with it. So the money that we give them for this week will enable them to get a bus ticket next week. You see what I mean? So they have to get there in the first place, but after that we'll help. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Sources of funding. I know you talked about the different groups that supported, but the actual cash.
Actual cash. It's a mixed bag. We have funds. Most of our funding comes from grant-giving bodies, and it can be a different set of grant-giving bodies each year. We've had money for the drop-in centre. Bessie can do this better than I can. The Leicestershire Fund, Comic Relief for outings, the Yap Foundation, Red Nose Fund, Communities First, which is the Church Urban Foundation that gave us the money that does the art classes.
And the aim of that particular fund is to encourage asylum seekers and local people to mix and get to know each other. So we do activities that get people together in groups.
The co-op funded the lighting and the kitchen. Each year we spend an awful lot of time applying for grants. We get 40% perhaps of the grants we apply for. Certainly no more than half. So you spend a lot of time applying for grants you don't get, which is pretty frustrating, but there you go.
The City Council used to have 2 grants officers,
Yes.
and somewhere they had a book, which might now be on the computer, but I think like the Alderman Newton's Foundation was once established, and there's all sorts of local
That's right.
charities.
Yes, we go. There are lots and lots and lots of charities out there. Actually, when you start digging, yes, there's something called the Leicestershire think it calls itself the funding toolkit these days, which is a list of grant-giving bodies. So you have to go down the grant-giving bodies and think, well, we're not a sport, and we're not this, and we're not that. But actually, we might come under that one. But then I spend a lot of time plying about on the internet looking for bodies that might give us money.
And it's a never-ending thing.
Yes.
Because as soon as you get one, you've got to start accounting for how you spend it. And then, as soon as that's finished, you've got to have another one lined up to take its place.
Yes.
So it is an ongoing, constant.
Just occasionally we get a grant that will be for 2 years or 3 years, and that's wonderful. But at the moment, because our overall funding, drop-in centres, the biggest by far amount of money that we spend. Grant-giving bodies, there are grant-giving bodies that give grants of 20,000, 100,000, because we don't spend that much. We can't get any of those grants. Nobody will give you a grant that is more than, well, certainly not more than half, usually not more than a third of your overall spend. And they prefer to give you a grant that is much less. So in fact, our grants come in batches of 2,000 and 5,000 rather than anything bigger, which is a nuisance because it means we need more of them. What we are beginning to do is make more money for ourselves, because as the economic crisis bites, it's getting more and more difficult to, well, yes, it's getting more and more difficult to get grants, and there's more and more people looking for them, because those charities that were funded, perhaps through local government or central government, have lost all or part of their funding, so they're going for grants as well. So there's more competition. So we are trying, we have an annual now May Fair, which raises something over 1,000 each year. We're trying this year with a concert, which some of you ladies at the back I hope are going to come and sing at, that we hope will raise around 1,000 as well.
And we didn't bring any tickets.
We didn't bring any tickets, but anybody who would like to know about the, we didn't, but please ask me and I will book you a place. Do not worry. The other thing that we try to do is we get people to sign up to Covenant so much a month or a year, but usually a month. Oh, mostly £5 at a time, not huge sums of money. But, you know, £5 a month is £60 a year, and enough people giving you £60 a year begins to add up. So we're trying increasingly hard to make money. We sell things like this, which actually are publicity as much as profit. They cover their own costs, they make a bit of profit. But we don't make a huge amount, but we try.